The Rational View is a weekly series hosted by me, Dr. Alan Scott, providing a rational, evidence-based perspective on important societal issues. Hello and welcome to The Rational View. I'm your host, Dr. Al Scott. This episode is going to be brief, maybe a little bit of a retrospective on the year. I'm spending some time with family on summer vacation, and I hope you have a chance to do the same. On this episode, I want to give a shout out to all of my faithful listeners and give you an update of what I'm working on. I hope you and your loved ones are safe from the COVID pandemic. And if you've recently lost a loved one, then you have my sincerest condolences. First off, I wanted to say thank you to my loyal listeners and patron sponsors. My Lord of the Eagles sponsor, my little brother, Kevin Scott, leader of the Masculine Expansion and Effortless Alphas. My Gandalf level sponsor, AGI Laboratories. My Frodo level sponsors, Terrestrial Energy and Chris Bergen. And my Fellowship of the Tweet sponsors, Brent Reshny, Timo Ladwick, and my ever-supportive parents. Thanks, Mom and Dad. Also, a big shout out to my partners who support me in this effort on the podcast, my kids and my very intelligent spouse, Sarah, who put up with me doing research when I should be paying attention to them. Also to Chris Cole for the cool theme music, Shannon Layer for the awesome Rational View logo, and Angus Fraser for editing my podcasts with funding from my awesome supporters. So as a special thank you to those of you who are willing to help me spread the Rational View pro-science, pro-environment message, I'm going to be offering a Rational View t-shirt as a token of my appreciation to somebody who posts a review of my podcast on iTunes. More reviews means that more people will see the podcast as an option when they're browsing the store. If you're interested in posting a review, just go to the iTunes store, search out the podcast, scroll to the bottom, and click Add a Review. I'd really appreciate it. Now, just a little retrospective over the year in review. It's been now just over a year since I started this, about a year and 2 months, I guess. I've learned a lot in this process, and I hope you have too, by following along with me. I'm constantly challenged to support my opinions and keep abreast of the latest scientific information, and for your feedback in that process, I am thankful and grateful. I'm constantly working to critique and improve my positions on important issues and stay civil and on topic when challenged by those who disagree with my positions. I find the work of spreading facts about unpopular topics is the most difficult. It seems we need to convince the world one person at a time in some cases. And it's a huge effort, and it takes a village. And that is why I have invited all of you to participate on this journey with me, to learn with me and go forth as my Frodos into the world, to promote informed civil discourse in the face of polarized opposition and tribalism, to add your voices to exponentially amplify the message of reason in an increasingly irrational world. On the podcast, I've been exploring a few themes over the past couple months, continuing a focus on nuclear energy for climate change mitigation, continuing my interest on communication strategies on polarized issues, and also delving into a mini-series on gender equity in STEM fields, which I think affects the uptake of our message globally. What are the successes we've had over this past year? The podcast, I shall say, has exceeded all my expectations. Thank you. I'm really happy with the feedback that I get and the number of people that are interested in what I'm saying. We now have exceeded 43,000 downloads. So that's amazing. I have close to 1,000 followers on Podbean. I've grown the Rational View discussion group on Facebook, and that I think was a real good turn of events to bring that up. Instead of the Facebook page, the Facebook discussion group is so much more interactive. It's so much better to talk to people and get their impressions and their opinions and get feedback when I have bad ideas. It's nice to to hear from people who know more about topics than I do. So thank you for that. We now have 322 members on the Rational View Facebook discussion group. We've welcomed many of the podcast contributors to the group to discuss the science behind the issues. So going forward, what are my goals? My goals are to continue to grow the podcast and address important popular social issues, to be a voice of reason, and to spread a pro-science, pro-environment message, actively stand up for my positions and teach others to be skeptical listeners and learners. I want to revisit some of the issues I've spoken to previously, and maybe bring back a few guests. I know I've had Chris Kiefer now come back as a returning guest, and there's probably several others that would be interesting to get updates on how they're doing. I'd like to continue on focus on replacing fossil fuels and expanding our nuclear energy. I want to continue challenging my beliefs. I also want to finish writing up a paper on energy return on investment estimates for solar and nuclear generation technologies, but it's a big job to put that all together. I also have a goal to spend quality time with my family, and also at my work to do a good job. Right now we're developing the Castor Space Observatory for Canada, so that's kind of cool. And JWST is going to be launching this year, I think. So, wow, that'll be great to see some of the hardware that we've worked on go up into space. Something to look forward to. A bit of a teaser here. I've hinted at this in the past, but I'm going to be achieving one of the goals of my podcast this year, 2021. I've been promised an interview with one of my favorite science popularizers. The talented and witty Neil deGrasse Tyson will be coming on the show this fall. So stay tuned. I'm very excited. Send me some comments as to what questions you would like me to ask Neil, because that's going to be really cool. Who else should I be interviewing? Now that I've, got this goal, I need to set another goal. How about Bill Nye? He's an interesting character. It might be fun to have him on the program. Other things I'm working on. Right now, I'm helping to organize a Stand Up for Nuclear event this fall. Saturday, September 25th in Ottawa, Canada. We will be gathering on Parliament Hill between 2 and 4 p.m., socially distancing, wearing masks, to support our unsung environmental heroes, the nuclear workers who keep the lights on 24/7, keep the air clean from fossil fuel exhaust, and manufacture radioisotopes to treat cancer. Everybody is welcome to join us and show the world that Canadians are fully behind achieving net zero carbon as quickly as possible. This is a global event, so check the Stand Up for Nuclear website and see if there's one in your city, and go out and show support. It's all through September, and there's several all across Canada. I'm also working with Canadians for Nuclear Energy. I've been supporting their Tax the Gas and Save Pickering campaigns. If you haven't heard about this, the Ontario government is planning to shut down the Pickering nuclear plant, which basically powers Toronto. 20% of our clean nuclear power of the province in 2024 is supposed to be shut off and replaced with fossil gas. This would be more damaging in environmental impact than knocking down all of the windmills in Ontario in a single day. Let that sink in. In 1 year, Pickering, a small Costco-sized facility, produces about 24 terawatt hours of clean carbon-free electricity. Our massive windmill fleet dotting the landscape of southern Ontario as far as the eye can see, with transmission lines crisscrossing the area, massive concrete pads dotting the landscape, produces roughly 11 terawatt hours, or just under half. The utilities, it turns out, are happy with this arrangement of shutting down Pickering and replacing it with gas, because gas can turn a quick profit with very little investment these days, thanks to the currently low price of fracked gas. Whereas nuclear power is a long-term, large investment that pays off over decades. And there's risk. Obviously, if you're putting in that much money, there's risk. The Ontario government has made this situation worse. And here's how they've done it. they have committed to not taxing 90% of the carbon emissions from fossil gas plants. And this basically allows the utilities to burn natural gas with no penalties, whereas we are paying at the pumps for our emissions. The utilities are not. So nuclear gets no advantage in this case. Burning fracked gas for electricity has a greenhouse gas footprint similar to coal. And that's because fossil gas is methane, and it's a horrible greenhouse gas. It builds up in the environment and breaks down over, say, 25 years in the atmosphere. But it's hundreds of times worse than CO2. And even 1 or 2 or 3%, which is what people estimate, fracked gas leaks into the environment as it's being mined and distributed. That makes the footprint of burning gas in terms of greenhouse worse than coal over a 20-year period. Over a 100-year period is about the same as coal because the methane goes away over a fraction of a century. So plus the CO2 that burning natural gas contributes is also bad. Natural gas is not a clean fuel. It has less particulate emissions than coal, so it kills fewer people from air pollution. That's the good point of natural gas. Instead of killing 100 people per terawatt hour, it kills maybe 4 people per terawatt hour from air pollution. So if you support environmentalism, let's get on the bandwagon. Let's save Pickering, this cathedral of technology. Let's make sure the gas is taxed properly. Look up the Tax the Gas petition. Go sign it. And I hope you all have a great summer. I'm going to hopefully get an interview coming up with the Stand Up for Nuclear organizer. And maybe the next podcast will be that interview. I appreciate you all listening to me go on about my summer vacation. And I really, really appreciate your support on listening to The Rational View. Thank you for supporting me. Bye-bye. If you'd like to follow up with more in-depth discussions, please come find us on Facebook at The Rational View and join our discussion group. If you like what you're hearing, please consider visiting my Patreon page at patron.podbean.com/TheRationalView. Thanks for listening.